between body and soul. Death brings about a radical change from the awareness of having a body or being a body to having no awareness of any body. While the material body remains unchanged, yet it is a body without an owner, without any person, self, left to experience it. Beyond death, the true nature of the body, or quote, what remains, is unknown. The revelation of this unknown is the true nature of resurrection. It is the revelation of Christ as the true nature of what remains beyond any owner, any subject or person, be it divine or human, beyond any center or circumference within or without, beyond all experiences of life and being, beyond any experience of a soul, and the experience of any body. Resurrection is the revelation of the true nature of Christ, the eternal oneness of the form of God, Logos, with the eternal form of man. To say the true nature of the resurrection is the revelation of the real Christ sounds simple enough, yet to grasp this revelation, one must first be dead. Otherwise, the enormity of this revelation may never be truly understood. Resurrection is not the revelation of God, the Trinity, the man Jesus, yourself, or any one being. To say any more about this, however, the background required would entail writing several books of introduction. It would entail truly knowing and identifying the Trinity in one's own life, and second, it would mean having lived the entire spiritual journey from beginning to end, which end begins with death. The revelation of resurrection and incarnation is the revelation of the Alpha and Omega of Christ, meaning man ends where Christ began, and Christ begins where man ends. All that can be made clear here is that the true nature of resurrection is the particular, one-of-a-kind revelation of Christ. Is the particular, one-of-a-kind revelation of Christ. In fact, the very definition of resurrection is Christ. Resurrection has nothing to do with any revivification of a dead body, a soul's return to a body, or any form of earthly existence, temporary or eternal. Anyone who plans on any of this is just living in Sheol, waiting for something that will never happen. About 3 more pages, top of page 380, for those who are following along in the paperback version. Eternal life, or heaven, is life with and in God's eternal dimension of existence, and just as God is not a place, so too heaven is not a place. As for God being a place, Philo of Alexandria says this, quote, God himself is called place from the fact that he contains all, but is contained by nothing, and that he is a place of refuge for all, and because he is his own space, being contained in himself alone. As for me, I am not a place, but in a place, and every existent likewise. For that which is contained is different from that which contains it, and the Godhead, being contained by nothing, is necessarily itself its own place. End quote. No question, this is a beautiful understanding of God as a place. But since the place of creation already exists in God, then what is the difference between man's present life in God, in this world, and his eternal life in God? If death and resurrection make no difference, then what is it about? Those who think it is possible for man to live eternally in this world, on this or any planet, are incapable of having any understanding of death and the true nature of resurrection. Since outside or apart from God nothing exists, and that by reason of its existence everything is existentially one with God, depends on God for its existence, does not mean anything that exists is God or is eternal life. Because God alone is eternal life, for man to have eternal life means he must be granted more than his mere existence, more than an existential union with God. Man's eternal life is what is called a hypostatic union, a union not in man, not in creation, and not even livable in this world. So although all creation is in God, by no means does it have any eternal life of its own, nor is it guaranteed any eternal life at all. So the place of eternal life is not in the created, but in the uncreated. Because God's heavenly dimension is not subject to time and space, it is not spatially distant from man's present dimension. On the contrary, God is closer to man than he is to himself. When earthly life is over, man moves into this divine dimension of existence, and if people wonder what they will be doing in heaven, they have no idea of God's infinite existence in which they will partake. Having been transformed into oneness with God's wisdom, Logos, he will know as God knows, have the mind of Christ, and through the Logos share a oneness with the glorious transcendent, as well as the fiery love and power of the Spirit. It is not what man will do in heaven, but what man will be. I can't help but thinking of those Middle Ages, medieval paintings of the bored angels, which is dead on, because it's not about what we will do. In this world, man only knows God as God is in his own self, whereas in eternal life, there is only God in itself, and no longer in or for man himself. Thus death is the transition from earthly to eternal life, from an earthly dimension to God's dimension of existence. To think there is any resemblance, or that this transition does not require a radical change in human nature, is an illusion. Life on earth and eternal life are not remotely compatible. In fact, life in and with God negates everything man knows and experiences in earthly existence, even the way he knows God. A question that might be asked about the revelation of resurrection is, quote, to whom is this revelation given? End quote. This was a question she was often asked. Since death is the loss of person, one's self-identity, then who is the resurrection revealed to? Needless to say, if there is no who to be revealed and no who to reveal it to, the question cannot even be asked. To understand the true nature of resurrection, people have to get beyond who someone is, otherwise they can never understand the real Christ and their own eternal life with God. Yet there is another answer to the above question, even though it can never be intellectually grasped. In this matter, we might recall Irenaeus' noting the difference between the logos ad intra and ad extra. Ad extra, the manifest logos, is cosmic, the cosmic Christ. But ad intra, the immanent logos, is God's wisdom. While resurrection is the body's eternal oneness with the cosmic logos, far more important, however, resurrection is a participation in the logos' wisdom, God's divine knowing. So the revelation that is the resurrection is not a revelation to someone, of someone. It is simply God's own knowing, own wisdom, indeed, God's truth. As long as this revelation is associated with any human person, it is somebody's wisdom and not God's. It is God's wisdom that lies the other side of the grave, beyond all persons and anything that can be defined as a person. This wisdom belongs to no person, nor can ever be known by any person. God's divine knowing is non-experiential, non-intellectual. It is not a presence. It is not in or above anything, has no connection to the mind, can never be localized anywhere or grasped. A bad analogy of its revelation might be compared to simply drawing a curtain aside or lifting a fog no one ever knew existed. It is just a divine knowing of which nothing more can be said. Footnote 2, bottom of page 381. Many years ago, there was a radio program called The Shadow.